Good evening. Okay, well, I am thrilled to be and honored to be with you this evening here in my own town. And I love Mind Supermind since the 80s, and what a pleasure. So let's just jump in, and these slides, these images will go by pretty quickly. I work with a couple of organizations. I'm going to introduce those in just a minute. These are a couple of our mottos. We train thousands to inform and inspire millions to heal themselves for free. We train thousands to inform and inspire millions to heal themselves for free. So now think to yourself, if you lived in a culture that was complaining about a health cost crisis, wouldn't it be amazing if you could teach people to heal themselves for free? Here's another one. When each person manages the personal job of taking care of themselves, the immense job of taking care of everyone is already done. And think about that. How often do we talk about who should be taking care of who? And what about the whole idea of supporting people and inspiring and informing them and creating environments in which they can take care of themselves? That's the power of the Center for Lifelong Learning, by the way, and why we're all here together. So these organizations, Health Action, Inc., the Institute of Integral Qigong and Tai Chi, and the Healer Within Foundation. So how do we do what those mottos just said? And it's small print here because I want to be able to not have to extemporize on it. We take incredibly amazing, empowering, and inspiring information from science, medicine, philosophy, and anthropology of ancient cultures and make it accessible. Then we create experiences to bridge from what seems impossible to what is actually easy. How much fun do you think that is? And we're going to do that here tonight, and not as much as we would love to, in a short period of time. But, I have some classes that are going to be showing up in the spring schedule, and there's I think there's a flyer on that. So let's keep going. First, I want to just acknowledge the Santa Barbara Community College Center for Lifelong Learning. Do you know how lucky you are to have this organization in your town? Amazing. And I want to thank the people that I work with, my staff, and especially my wife, Rebecca, who puts up with me. She's out here somewhere. Just a huge appreciation for the support and collaboration. And then before you leave, sign on to our email list because we want to send you, it's like a book about how to do some of the things that we're going to be talking about here this evening. So if you're inclined to follow up, then do sign on to that email list. They'll be back by the exit doors. There's 4 sign-ups, so it shouldn't take too long. Just so you know, so that I can present the interesting and unusual material that we're going to be talking about here this evening, I want you to know a little bit about where I've done some of this kind of work in the past. Not everything that we're going to do here has gone to all these parties, of course, as you'll see. So the American Medical Association, can you imagine? That was a very interesting experience. My background is in Chinese medicine. What an honor to have that. And the American Hospital Association. Recently, the Mayo Clinic. Wow, what an honor. And on down the line, Catholic Health Association. When I think about the Catholic Health Association, I think about St. Francis Hospital that used to be here in our town. I miss that. You know, the old-timey healthcare system. The new-timey healthcare system's, you know, good too. Recently, we've been doing projects with the Veterans Administration. And, you know, how close to our hearts is that work? So I just want to shout out some keywords because my intent is to, I don't know, challenge your thought process and your belief systems. So think about truth. Who knows the truth? And assumption. Where do we get those? And some assumptions die hard. Belief. How often have you actually changed your beliefs? Reality. What is that? We don't even know. We'll talk about that later. Relativity. You've heard that. You've heard that word. Well, it's kind of relative. I mean, if you look at it this way or that way, then you know what I mean. Then there's something called actual definition, as opposed to culturally approved definitions or different definitions. I think you know what I mean. What about the concept of personal alchemy? Like, you know, transformation? What is that? Longevity, that's easy, except for how it's not. We're going to talk about that. I mean, the definition is easy. The actually living like that, we'll talk about that too. And then what is this immortality thing? You know, aren't you on the edge of your seat for that? And by the way, I'll just tell you now that it's nothing about living forever in the body that you have today. Who would be interested in that? Whenever you see a movie of someone who's living forever, they're miserable. They try to kill themselves and they can't. So immortality has a much better definition than that. So let's get started on blowing our minds. The most profound medicine is produced within the human body for free. Do you believe that? Is that something that you've ever thought of? And if you've ever thought of it, then how do you feel about the fact that nobody else is talking about it? And where's your tribe? Where's your group of friends who buy it that the body produces a medicine for no cost? Well, back to the Center for Lifelong Learning. That's where those kinds of people hang around. So what is this concept of a golden elixir of longevity and immortality? Well, it's a concept that was developed in the Chinese society thousands of years ago. And in fact, when the Chinese began to write things down, the concept was already highly refined. Scholars say that the concept of longevity and immortality existed in the Chinese culture long before writing. And we're going to talk a little bit about dates later. But our assumptions about when things happened and the order of events and what's true, it's just interesting. So in the Chinese culture, Chinese medicine, there's a multitude of different, shall we say, points of view. and one of the most profound points of view is called the three treasures. And there's a whole system of medicine around the three treasures called Sanbao. Sanbao means three treasures. And it's a kind of science. And in a little while, we'll talk about the definition of science and scientists. So if you think to yourself, well, but that's from thousands of years ago, how could that be science? Just be thinking about the key words around the issues of assumptions, truth, relativity. And this science is based on Qi, life force, life energy. You know, if you're interested in Star Wars, you would call that the Force. And it's some kind of an amazing universal resource that infuses every corner of the universe, or universes, depending on your sense of whether we're in one or more universes, and every being and everything. Wow, that's just amazing. We want to learn more about that. So in addition to being a substance, what are we? Well, Chinese medicine is based on the idea that the most profound and most essential aspect of our being is not the body, but instead this force called Qi. So the ultimate medicine, and by the way, think of the difference between drug, medicine, and elixir. When you hear those three words, which one excites you the most? Drug? No. Well, what about medicine? Well, maybe. What about elixir? Yes. Highly refined, carefully tended, extracted from natural resources, probably less dangerous than drugs and medicines. So when we talk about the ultimate elixir, where do I get it? What does it cost? Is it actually a thing? And then some of the other questions that come up around Qi and so forth is, am I a body with an energy field, or am I an energy field with a body? Ask yourself, have you ever thought about this before? Who is the most important expert? Think about that question. Who is the most important expert? Well, we live in a society where we hardly can make decisions without hiring someone. Why? Why is it that we don't trust our own experience? What's the problem with trusting our own experience? Can self-observation be the essence of healing, well-being, and longevity? Can self-observation be the essence of healing? Is the local self the site where healing occurs? Does the non-local transcendental self need healing? Or is the non-local transcendental aspect of self, we would call that the spirit, is that the source of healing? You might think, well, I'm going to tell you the answer to these questions, but these are just my favorite questions. And think to yourself, when a question has a specific answer, it's like the dialogue is over. But if a question doesn't have a specific answer, then the dialogue is rich, and it goes on and on in our own mind and among each other. So here's the image of Sanbao, Three Treasures Medicine. Image in the middle, which many call the yin-yang symbol, is actually, the name of that is Tai Chi. The name of that is Tai Chi. So you might think, well, I thought Tai Chi was an exercise. And the answer is yes, an exercise named after that, which is the harmonizing as you can see, through the mind of the body and the spirit. It's beautiful. So there are many versions of the three treasures. We just look at it a few. Yin and Yang and Tai Chi in the middle, body, mind, and spirit. Well, here's another version of the three treasures, or sometimes called the three mindful points of focus. And while we're here together this evening, even starting right now, you could think to yourself, how could I correct or adjust or make a change in my body? How could I adjust or correct or change or modify my breath? And how could I adjust or change or modify my mind? And these three powerful features of our own being, they're never not where we are. They're never not where we are. So everywhere you go, body, breath, and mind are with you. Everywhere you go, you can modify them. And when I go to the science, it's going to kind of blow your mind what happens when you just simply adjust the three treasures. Okay, a little more on Sanbao medicine. Understand three treasures to enter into and potentially sustain an association with the invincible aspect of self that cannot be harmed and does not die. Do you ever think about that? Do you ever think about the part of yourself that is invincible? You know, when you're feeling muddled and lost, I'm talking to myself. So, not just, pontificating here. Talking to myself, and I'm talking to you. And do you consider the part of yourself? Do you have an association with the part of yourself which is invincible and does not die? Second part, cultivate Sanbao medicine to access eternal, immortal nature to heal, learn, create, evolve, thrive. Wow. What does it mean? Well, we just so you know, we just talked about it. Adjust the three treasures, pay attention to the relationship between the earth and the sky, pay attention to the relationship between the body, the mind, and the spirit. Do it wherever you are, whenever you remember to. That's it. That's it. Now, here we go, because that's pretty easy. That's pretty accessible. So let's give some logic for why this is so amazing. The ultimate elixir may already be present within our own being as an invisible resource that is not only free, but priceless. This alchemy, this golden elixir, that is gold. The gold, by the way, the gold is just the whole concept of alchemy, right? In alchemy, you transform that which is not gold into gold. You transform that which is not gold into gold. So think about yourself. Did you have a golden day? How can you transform a non-golden day into gold? Do you have a set of thoughts that are distressing and muddled and shall we say, murky? And is there a possibility to reframe that? Is there a possibility to return to an awareness of your invincible self, shall we say? These are just ideas. I mean, they're ideas that come from people who thought about it sincerely for thousands of years. So why don't we just think about it while we're here? An elixir for the body, produced within the body, an elixir for the heart and the mind, for the mental, emotional self, produced by you, for you. We're not talking about Haldol, we're not talking about Zoloft, we're not talking about the butterfly that puts you to sleep at night. We're talking about medicine that's made within you that has no side effects, that you cannot overdose on. It is amazing. So, descent of spirit into consciousness and then into flesh, is that how it happens? Is there's something spiritual about yourself that comes through some sort of a process that says, sure, okay, I'll take on a body? I don't know the answer. These are all just interesting questions. The material paradigm says that the body may possibly have an energy and a spirit, but we do not know. The trans-physical paradigm says that eternal energy and consciousness purposefully take on a body. Do you remember taking on a body? Or why you did, or when you did, or how you did? No, we don't know that. But is there any proof that that doesn't happen? There's no proof that that doesn't happen. So according to who? Check this out. So here's the Chinese. This is the environment in which these ideas were founded or discovered or delineated. A village in China today, I took that picture, that doesn't have a road to it in the clouds. Now, what would happen if you lived in a village that didn't have a road to it in the clouds? What would it be like? What would you be thinking of? What would the people who like to think about things be thinking of? And what if they had a tradition of practice, personal cultivation? What if they had a tradition of personal cultivation that meant simply cultivating the relationship between the three treasures, the body, the breath, and the mind, the body, mind, and the spirit, and this potentially invincible aspect of our being that is endless in some way. It's just flashing through. Wow, can you imagine being in an environment like that? That's a big temple, cloudy mountainscapes, and here is one of those thinkers or practitioners. Now, I actually met this guy. He lives in a cave. And when you go to see him, he gives you stuff because people think, well, he's an immortal. And so I'm going to give him a present because it'll help me somehow. So he's got all this stuff that he doesn't need. So when you go to visit him, he says, would you please just, take this fruit, take these magazines, just take this stuff out of here. Okay, so let's practice. So the three intentful points of focus that we just described, posture, breath, and mind. So go ahead, adjust your posture. So note and modify your body. Take note and modify your body. Take note of your breath. We don't really have time to take a long note of our breath, so take a brief note of your breath. See if you can learn how to pay attention to your breath all the time. See if you can notice what your breath pace is. You can use your phone. Most of us have those phones with a stopwatch on it. You can use your phone, just click the button and then breathe for a minute and see how many times you're breathing. It'll be 16 to 22. If you can bring your breath rate down to 10 breaths or less a minute, it does something. And we're going to have that experience in a little while. Right now, adjust your body, lengthen, drop your shoulders, deepen your breath, and then turn your attention to your consciousness or your mind or your awareness. And then just make a little deal with yourself, and we'll just do this for a half a minute. And then, because what we want to see is how easy is it to do this. We're going to do this for 30 seconds. Just see if you can, in the next 30 seconds, pay attention only to something that's happening now, or some things that are happening now. And 30 seconds is starting now, and I'll just talk to you a little bit while 30 seconds are passing. So one thing is that you're probably taking a deeper breath. Another thing is that you've lengthened your spine. Another thing is that you are aware of your hands, where your hands are sitting. Another thing is that you're probably aware of some sounds around you. And it doesn't take long for the busy mind to come back and distract you. So let's adjust your posture again. Adjust your breath one more time. Deep breath. Focus your attention. Now, if you do this for a little while, it has a name. It's called Qigong. In China, the name for the three treasures practice is Qigong. Let's keep going. So now we'll do the science, and it's going to go fast because of time. If you want to, what it says down in the left-hand corner is contact my office, and I will send you as much information as I can on these items here. I'll discuss them very briefly, but I want you to know that these are articles from the research. Now, the first one's about the body and the posture, and that's the first intentful correction. Adjust your posture. Now, here's 2 studies on that. The first one is called posing. There's a huge study been done on the effect of standing up straight and celebrating yourself. You know how often we don't stand up straight and are maybe questioning ourselves or not celebrating ourselves? Well, there's actually a shift in neurohormones based on literally just sitting up straight and owning a feeling of power, called the posing study. Then there's another one called the sitting study. And did you know that sitting is as dangerous as smoking cigarettes? This is right out of the science, and I'll send you the study on it. I'll send you the citations for all of these if you want them. But you have to put your name on that email list, and you have to say, send me the research. Then on the breath, wow. There is so much that goes on with the breath. I mean, we could be here for the whole evening just talking about the breath. We have a whole kind of a hootenanny of the breath discussion that we're not going to have. I mean, we're having some of it, but nothing like we could. There's a little more coming up. One of the things that happens when you take a deep breath is that you're pumping your lymphatic system, which usually doesn't do much unless you move around. And the lymphatic system is the foundation of the elimination system. So how can you accelerate the elimination of metabolic byproducts and the waste products that get caught in the body and cause inflammation and so forth? How can you do that? Well, breathe. Take a deep breath. Go ahead. Take a deep breath and notice how much it's costing you. Take a deep breath and notice how hard it is. Like, there is no barrier to entry here, my friends. This is just as easy as pie. Deep breath has meaning, and later I'll blow your mind a little bit more about it. It is amazing. Regarding the acetylcholine and the relaxation response. So then the mind, what about the mind? Well, first of all, is the mind really the brain? No. All kinds of science says that the mind is not in the brain, but we still make that association. So we'll do that again here. Neuroscience and the science of neuroplasticity. Do you know that the most important thing about neuroplasticity is novelty? Do you know that? Novelty, what does it mean? Doing unusual things. just doing unusual things. So when somebody says, oh, you know, I'm just not inclined to unusual things, well, watch out. And if you say to yourself, well, I'll try it. Oh, yeah, I'll give that a try. It's not about getting it right. It's about giving it a try. And that makes all kinds of magic happen in the brain. There's pounds, tons of science on this. And then the relaxation response keeps showing up. So we're going to talk more about that. Did you know that 70 to 90% of all disease is preventable? Did you know that? It's from a government document in the year 1991. How long ago was that? It's like 30 years. And yet you don't know. Why? Is it a conspiracy? Probably. 8 out of 9 causes of disease are preventable. The first one's from a government document, the second one's from the New England Journal of Medicine, and the Sievert Coops is the author. 8 out of 9 causes of disease are preventable. Behaviorally preventable. We're not talking about inoculations and medical procedures. We're talking about stuff you do in your life. And the 10 causes of disease, of death, you know about these? Heart disease, cancer, stroke, COPD, etc., all of that. But have you ever thought of this? Now, take this in. It's going to happen fast. Take this in. What are the 9 actual causes? So those 10 are the list makers, but this is what causes people to have those diseases. Tobacco, diet and activity, that's exercise, alcohol, you know, and on. All this stuff these are all behavioral. They don't happen. They're not diseases that get you. They're diseases that you allow yourself to have. But what about this? This is the 8 root causes of the causes. So this is the cause of the cause of the cause of death. It's things like not having enough information, a compromised sense of self-reliance, external and internal stress, low self-esteem, everything down to confusion and economic inequity. That's the cause of disease. So are we going to treat these things in hospitals? No. We treat these things in schools and families and social service agencies. Okay, so physiological mechanisms, just so you know that I know, so that we put this all together as a part of the elixir of longevity. When we do these practices, simple as just adjusting your posture, deepening your breath, and focusing your mind. Oxygen and nutrition are delivered. Accelerated lymph propulsion, we talked about that. Relaxation response, we're going to talk more about that. Neurotransmitter shift, big deal. Enhanced immune function and telomere nourishment. Did you even know you had a telomere? Yes, probably have. Heard this lately. So how do we, the new research on, well, we're going to see it, let's just go. So physiological changes in the stress response and the relaxation response. Under stress, your heart rate increases, your blood pressure increases, your tension increases, your metabolism increases, and your breath rate increases. When you get into the relaxation response, all of those same things decrease. A decrease in heart rate. Now, there's actually research that shows that you, on average, have a certain amount of heartbeats in your life. Yeah, there's research on that. It's, an average of many people over time. And what would happen if you slowed your heart down? Well, you would live longer, according to that kind of research. Blood pressure goes down, risk for stroke goes down, muscle tension goes down, all the energy that we spend fueling muscles that are tense. Metabolism, you know, when we increase the rate of metabolism to survive because we're in the fight or flight state, it's wasted. It's wasted. That same metabolic resource could be used as a medicine in our own body, and that's what happens under the auspices of the relaxation response. And here's a bunch more of, but you know, in terms of time, we'll just keep going. But it's just, wow, there is so much that happens in the human body that you can do, that you are given the capacity to do. But what happened? Well, nobody said. Nobody trained us. Our parents didn't train us. Our school didn't train us. Our military experience didn't train us. Our sports experience didn't train us. Where did this training ever come from? It just didn't happen for most people. It's, you know, but like, it's never too late. All right, so here's the telomeres. Now, this is amazing, and I'm not going to dwell on this, but this is just to prove that there are 3 research papers, and they're all from 2005 and 2008, so there's piles of this since then. Here's the best bunch of lines from the Herbert Benson study, and so many of you know who Herbert Benson is. He's the guy that actually delineated the relaxation response. It is becoming increasingly clear that psychosocial stress, think to yourself, well, what is that? Psycho, okay, me. Social, okay, you. Social stress can manifest as system-wide perturbations of cellular processes, generally increasing oxidative stress and promoting a pro-inflammatory milieu. Now, if you study up on stuff, you know that oxidative stress is not a good thing, and a pro-inflammatory milieu is not a good thing. More recently, chronic psychosocial stress has been associated with accelerated aging at the cellular level, specifically shortened telomeres, low telomerase activity, decreased antioxidant capacity, and increased oxidative stress are all correlated with psychosocial stress and with increased, here's the key phrase, with increased vulnerability to a variety of disease states. The stresses of our lives are what's causing our diseases. So then we have to ask the question, am I at the effect of stress, or am I actually dancing in an agreeable sort of way with my stress? And in fact, am I even addicted to my stress? There's research on that. So these practices, Qigong, Tai Chi, yoga, meditation, all of those are actually equal to reduced rate of cell death. Imagine the point at which a certain number of I cells have died and cannot replicate. Imagine what happens when a certain level of your liver capacity has died off and cannot replicate. Imagine what happens when the capacity of your brain cells depreciates to the extent that those cells cannot replicate. Right? It's not going in the direction that we would wish. So these insights are actually what have been called the fountain of youth. So let's talk about the breath practice. I just wanted to show you a tiny little picture. Breath practice enhances function. There's a whole mechanism here that has been widely investigated, although nobody in this room probably knows much about it. You think, gee, you know, why is this all just for scientists to know about? Why can't the people, like the average person, why can't they know about it too? Why can't we take these simple ideas and diffuse them into our society like yesterday? Why can't we do that? Well, there are barriers, of course, and social this and that, but mostly it's because we don't know, because these things are all stated in such highly complex sorts of ways. And you'll find this complex, but check it out, and I'll explain it to you. Voluntary, slow, deep breathing, go ahead. Voluntary, that's you decide. Slow it down to 10 or less. Deep, you know, take a deep breath, you know what that is. as in Qigong, Tai Chi, Pranayama, etc., regulates sympathetic function. Sympathetic function is the healing aspect of the autonomic nervous system through tissue stretch and interthoracic induced sympathetic inhibitory signals. Sorry, I mean, it's gobbledygook to you, but what it really means is that it's slowing down the stress response through the pulmonary stretch receptors and arterial baroreceptors by synchronizing activities of the heart, lungs, limbic system, cortex to increase vagal parasympathetic capacity. But it's all good stuff. Big deep breath, let it out slowly. And in a little while here, we're going to do some deep breathing where we focus on it, and you'll feel something changing, but you can go ahead and make that change now if you want to. The breath is considered by the ancients to be the bridge to the eternal self. So here's your immortality connection. In The Secret of the Golden Flower, it says, rest the light of consciousness. Now think to yourself, what is the light of consciousness? Rest the light of consciousness on the breath to nourish the blossoming of the golden flower of the immortal nature. Now these are words that we can hardly even understand, but they were written originally. The Secret of the Golden Flower is not 2,000-3,000 years old, but the concept of the golden flower is. So wrap your arms around these ideas, see what you think. Okay, now very practical research about Qigong and Tai Chi, which are methods for initiating and maximizing the three treasures. So this is a review that myself and some others got published in the American Journal of Health Promotion, which is kind of impressive actually. And basically what it says is that Tai Chi and Qigong are worthy of our interest because they're safe and they're effective. That's called the evidence base. The evidence base on these practices, which lead to healing, longevity, and touching the hem of the garment of the invincible self, are safe and effective according to Western science. Well, that's really good news. Since we did that paper in 2010, the magnitude of the number of studies has doubled in half of the number of years. So in other words, from 1990 to 2010, 20 years, 70 studies. In 5 years, there's double that. Means money is going into it, universities are interested, the government's interested, and just watch. Your catalog here at the Center for Lifelong Learning will have more and more Qigong and Tai Chi and yoga and meditation and mindfulness. Why? Because we are a tribe, a community of people who care about these things. Now, check this out. We're not all the way there, but we're getting pretty close to being there, and so this can all happen pretty fast. Is there light in the body? Is there light in the body? Well, first of all, spiritual traditions say, here's the Secret of the Golden Flower again, turn the light of consciousness inward to cultivate the spirit. Second, from Jesus in Matthew 22, when you are focused on unity, your whole body will be filled with light. Do you remember reading that? Sometimes it says when your eye is single, your body is filled with light. Well, what does that mean? When Jesus said that, what was he talking about? Like what single eye? Third eye maybe? Pineal gland maybe? Or maybe it's just the view that a person has when they understand the nature of unity or oneness. You decide. But wow, that's amazing. It's all about light. Here's the science on light. Coherence theory says, bioluminescence is light. It's produced naturally within chemical reactions of the cells. Your cells are producing photons. Now, when you see someone who looks like they're kind of radiant, what does that mean? the light emitted from your cells is coherent, laser-like. This is actually really happening in your body right now. Your body is managing itself in part by circulating photons, intracellular communication, regulation of biological functions, supporting the cell, growth, and differentiation. This is science from 2001, 15 years ago. Imagine what's happened since then. But do you know about it? And why not? Is it possible that we are multidimensional beings of energy, consciousness, and light? Remember the question from earlier? Are we a body with an energy field, or are we an energy field with a body? And is it possible that there's some kind of medicine that we produce within ourselves that's sort of like a placebo? You know, the placebo is when you get well without taking any kind of drug. It's just because you believe in something. Wow. So then to bring this to the practical, and then to go way off to the edge of things, and then we'll do a little more practice, is we have a project through the Healer Within Foundation, which is called the National Dissemination Project. And, you know, longevity is well-being. So if we can bring well-being to people who are not typically well, then wouldn't that be great? And what kind of an effect would it have on the economy of our society? So we train thousands to inspire millions. We've done these trainings in Nebraska, Arkansas, California, Arizona, South Carolina, Florida, Georgia, Maine, Ohio, Oregon. I'm just going to show you a few pictures of people learning what we call Tai Chi easy. Here's people in New York. Here's people at the University of Wisconsin, at the National Wellness Institute. Here's people in Arizona, including people from tribes and drug and alcohol. We've done 3 major projects with the Veterans Administration. Here's a picture of the counselors and nurses and physical therapists at the VA in New York. So we train thousands to inspire millions to heal themselves for free. This is happening. And by the way, if you have a fistful of dollars that you want to turn over to a 501c3, you know, let me know. Okay, now let's practice. And then after we do this practice, we're going to be like a little bit more blah, blah, blah. And then we'll have some questions, and then we'll call it an evening. So upright yourself in your chair. And actually, I think there's enough space that we could stand. So go ahead, let's stand. And we're going to do a simple practice called flowing motion. And your hands are about shoulder width. Your feet are at about shoulder width. Turn your palms forward. Now here's where we're going to do that big breath in. Raise your hands, breathe in. Big breath in. And then hold for a moment. And then exhale very slowly through your nose and sink into your knees. Turn your palms forward. Raise your hands. Breathe in. Big, deep breath in. Raise up out of your knees. Lengthen your spine. Hold your breath for just a moment. Like 1, 2, 3, and then exhale, slowly sink down. We'll do one more. If you feel a little dizzy, because maybe you don't do this very often, then just don't. Don't do it. You can do more later, another day. Breathe in, hold for a moment. Turn your palms down and sink down and exhale very slowly. Now, it doesn't seem like much is going on, but we've got the 3 treasures working, and the 3 treasures is magic. What's the first treasure? Body, movement, lengthen your spine, breathe in, hold for a moment, big deep breath. Second treasure. Third treasure, pay attention to what's happening now. Exhale slowly, very slowly. Now let's just notice what we're feeling. Now, this is not the kind of exercise where you go fast to make something happen. This is where you go slow to make medicine, to turn on the elixir. Now, I'm sure you'd love to do more practice. We'll do that when we get together in the spring or when you go to some of the Qigong and Tai Chi classes. Take your seat now, and then we're going to do a couple of more breaths. Now, breathe in, raise your hands up, just like you were doing a moment ago. Hold your breath for a moment, right there. And then turn your palms down. Exhale very slowly. Now we're going to do this one more time. And I want you to notice what you're feeling. Right now, already, when you exhale, you probably feel some changes in the body. That is the medicine, the free, amazing, most profound medicine produced in the human body for no cost. One more big breath in. And hold for a 1 and a 2 and a 3. And then exhale very slowly, exhaling. Now take 15 seconds to just notice what you're feeling. Make a little phrase in your own mind. Say to yourself something like, in my fingers, or my face, or in my belly, or in my, wherever you feel it, something changing. Then you say, what does it feel like? I feel this, or I feel that. I hesitate to tell you what you should be feeling, because you shouldn't be feeling anything other than you do feel. So observe. Is it possible that self-observation is one of the most powerful tools of self-healing that there is? Now, when you leave, talk to somebody, say, yeah, I felt something. I felt something. It was in my, this, and it felt like that. Talk about it. Talk to each other. Tell your neighbors. Make a big deal out of these things. So, the future or the past or what the heck, let's just talk about it for a little bit. I'm just going to read these things to you, or, say a few things. Things we don't usually think of. Check these out. Where do we come from? Well, we have theories, multi-universes, multiverses they're called, timelessness, according to physics and Albert Einstein and so forth. Time is actually a relativity, not an actuality. Where are we now? Well, we don't even know where in the universe we are. We're into something that we call a super galaxy. Do you know about the recent probable disproof of the Big Bang? Have you heard about that? The Big Bang is actually not something that happened, that something else happened. We haven't figured out how to describe it yet. The recent proof of the Higgs boson and the gravitational waves just last week both reconfirm Einstein's deconstruction of Newton's fundamental of physics as space and time. This is amazing. I mean, maybe you don't get how it all fits together and maybe you don't even care, but it is the portal to understanding the nature of the three treasures and the potential for having a relationship with the aspect of yourself which is invincible and cannot die. Did you know that recently we've discovered that humans have been here for 3 million years, not 1.5 million years, 3 million years, based on burial evidence? Maybe you did or maybe you didn't read about it. That's amazing. The humans have been doing things on purpose, at least since they built fires, 1.5 million years ago. So is it possible that they came up with some stuff? Is it possible that ancient people were smarter than we thought? And when was the first mention of the elixir, the longevity and mortality? Well, The first mention was in literature, but the first conversation happened among humans previous to writing, anywhere from 30,000 to somewhere around 150,000 years ago or more. Have you ever thought about that? And if you haven't thought about it, it's okay, but think about it now. What does it mean that we don't think of? What does it mean that there are these things that we don't think of? Have we put them out of our minds? Is it easier to, go to the movies and go shopping? Where are we? This is a super galaxy, and that's us over there. If scientists don't know where we are, and if scientists don't know the nature of time, and if scientists are only discovering how powerful our own brain, heart, nervous system, energy fields are, what don't we know? Well, one of the things that we don't know is the true definition of longevity and the true definition of immortality. Some phrases from the great ancients, from Lao Tzu, who wrote the Tao Te Ching: pursue the practice of eternity. What? Whoever thought that it was possible to pursue the practice of eternity? Rumi says, what you seek is seeking you. What does that mean? Because I'm here, what I'm seeking is seeking me. What does it mean? Is that another part of myself in another universe somewhere? Well, apparently there are multitudes of universes. Maybe that's possible. We talked about turning the light around to create the golden flower and so forth. Do you know about the Heisenberg uncertainty principle? This is really interesting from physics. It's a paraphrase. It says the intent of the researcher has an influence on the outcome of the research. So, what if you are the research subject? What if you are the laboratory? And what if you are the researcher? If you let yourself be the researcher of your own life, it would mean that we would actually feel comfortable paying attention to ourselves and believing in what we experience rather than asking somebody else to figure our lives out for us. Very powerful, these thoughts. The one on the right is from Einstein. In the absence of time, just think about this for 10 seconds. In the absence of time, everything happens at once. Now, how would you be able to tell? How would you be able to have a story? Without time, we have no story. We have no experience. There's no place to go. There's nothing to do. Time, we may have, this is one of the theories about time, we may have decided to invent time so that we could tell stories and get sad and be happy and remember and forget and forgive or maybe not forgive. And then one of my favorite lines from a Nobel Prize winner who I saw on television, I did not get the name, but wow, what a great phrase. This is a physicist, a mathematician. No matter how we do the math, there's nothing here. What do you do with that? Now, I see you, you see me, it seems like there's space and there's time and, so what do we do about this? Well, let's just wrap up and I'm going to do a brief demonstration of a Qigong practice for you. So, there is no evidence that we are not immortal. And in the ancient text, the secret of everlasting life, check this out. The key is acceptance. This will be dazzlingly displayed as your spiritual vitality. As you transform, spirit expands to bring the whole world to ultimate peace. What does that mean? Does that mean that if I study my life carefully and reach for the value and the behavior of acceptance, that will be dazzlingly displayed as a kind of vitality, a transcendental vitality? And that as I do that for myself, that it will actually, in some way, contribute to ultimate peace in the world. But just breathe into that one. Do your 3 treasures on that. Okay, so Qigong practice for you, it's going to take maybe like 4 or 5 minutes. So, three treasures